Hi, everyone. I just want to clarify before we even start that this is by no means a replacement for reading the textbook. This is just to highlight some points from this chapter 8A. I know it says chapter 8, motivation, emotion, and stress, but we are not doing the entire chapter right now. We are just doing 8A, which focuses on motivation. So what is motivation? When you're motivated to do something, you want to do something. It's something that gets you to do it, right? So motivation, the definition is a need or desire that energizes and directs behavior. What gets you to do whatever it is that you do? Like this comic says, what do you think? Should we get started on that motivation research or not? Like, what's going to get these guys off their chairs to do what they got to do? And there are many theories about it. One of which, that's a little messed up. One of which is the instinct theory. Now, what is an instinct? Instinct is basically something that's unlearned, that is throughout your species, an unlearned behavior or a complex behavior that you'll find throughout one species that is unlearned. And what the instinct theory basically says is that, our motivation to survive is an instinct, right? Kind of like the whole evolution stuff, right? Instinct theory kind of echoes that type of evolution kind of feel, where our most important instinct would be our motivation to survive, right? So whatever is going to help us to survive, or any behavior that will help us survive better, aid our survival in any way, is going to be what motivates us to do something. Okay, so the next theory that I want to touch upon is the drive reduction theory, which basically, the basis for that theory is that everyone has a state of homeostasis. The body wants to be in a state of homeostasis. What's a homeostasis? It's basically that everything's in line, all is well, we don't need anything, this is our normal, this is our regular, right? We don't have any drives. We don't have any needs that need to be filled. The drive reduction theory says that when we have many physiological needs, right? So we have a need for food. So that need for food will create an aroused state. It will create a drive that is going to push us to get rid of that aroused state. When we're in an aroused state, or we have this drive, I want to refer to it more as a drive because we will have an arousal theory that I don't want you to get confused with. This need creates a drive that we then want to fill to get us back to a level of homeostasis. So all is well, all of a sudden I have this drive because I have a need for food. So I get this drive of hunger, right? And I'm going to want to fill that drive, fill that need, so that I will then, it's almost like you're constantly wanting to get rid of your drives. So you're giving your body what it wants. You're giving your body food in the sexual motivation. You would say you're giving your body sex, you're giving your body whatever it wants in order to get rid of that drive, to get rid of that state of arousal, and to get back to that homeostasis. The arousal theory basically says once your needs are all fulfilled, and once you don't have these drives that you need to fulfill your biological needs, the arousal theory comes along and says people like being, stimulated. People like being aroused. So we will, we're curious. We want to be engaged in the world. We want different things. They actually did this really cool study where they gave people these pens, and they said that when they click the pen, some of the pens will shock you. Some of them will have a little electric shock, and some of them don't. People are curious. They want to be aroused. They want to check out the world. So they're going to click the pen, right? That's the arousal theory. So they found that most of the people click the pen. They didn't have to click the pen, but they wanted to just check it out. We want to be aroused. We want to be stimulated. Okay. The next theory, I just want to pause on that for a second, not go to the next theory yet, the hierarchy of needs, because that's going to be really important, and we're going to go into more detail about that. But I just want to note that there's not only biological needs, there are other things like incentives that can play a role. Like, for example, sometimes you're just hungry because you have that need, but other times there are incentives. Like, I'm walking past the pizza store and I smell that pizza and I'm like, yum, right? It's such an incentive because I know I'm going to get that yummy, yummy, yummy pizza. It's not just a need. It's also like a reward almost. So there are such things as incentives. So now it's incentives like make my drive even stronger, my motivation even stronger, because now it's not only hunger, it's hunger plus like yum pizza, which is the incentive. It equals like super motivated to get that. Just a side note. And also we spoke about curiosity being a motivator as well, which kind of is similar to arousal and how we want to be stimulated, we want stuff going on. Okay. Hierarchy of needs. If there's something to take away from this chapter, it would be this. That doesn't mean you should let everything else go, but this is extremely important. And if you ever take another psych class, or you ever take an education class, or really, I would say in many, many fields, this will come up. And it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So when you see this kind of triangle situation over here, this pyramid, or associate it with Maslow. His name is Abraham Maslow. And he came up with the idea of a hierarchy of needs. So what is a hierarchy of needs? These are different types of needs that people have. Now, if you start at the bottom going towards the top, the bottom ones have more priority over the top ones. Meaning, until this bottom need is filled, I don't care about the need on top of it. I am not going to be motivated to fulfill these needs until my lower needs are met. So let's look at this. Physiological needs. Okay, so you have a need to satisfy hunger, thirst, whatever your body needs, right? So if someone is starving, okay, they don't care that they're feeling like safe. They're going to risk their life to get food because they don't really care about anything besides for fulfilling their physiological need. They're not going to care about their relationships. Like if someone like is trying to have a conversation with you and talk to you and you're just like, don't talk to me till I eat, right? Because like you're so hungry. I don't know, Motzi Yom Kippur, you're just like, you're not really interested in anything besides for the fact that your body needs food, right? You're not, if someone's starving to death, they're not worried about like all these higher things. They're not worried about their relationship. They just got to get their food and then they could worry about their other needs. Now, if you move up, being safe, feeling secure, feeling like you're in an organized world, predictability, things like that, that's going to come after physiological needs. So these are both very important. If people are running for their lives, if people are afraid, that's going to be safety. The next level is belongingness and love, right? Like people need other people, right? We need to be loved. We need to be in relationships. Of course, they don't care about that if their lower needs are filled. Once that is fulfilled, you move up to esteem, right? You want to achieve. We want to be, like we want to do stuff. We want respect for others, which is a little bit similar to self-actualization. Self-actualization is just like one step higher, which we're very familiar with in Judaism, where it's like being your best self, tikkun hamidos, living up to my potential. Who am I supposed to be, right? Now, if I don't feel safe, if I am running for my life, if I don't have any relationships, if I don't feel loved, if I don't have my physiological needs met, I am not worried about this because simply because like you just can't think about that, right? And the highest, with actually not everyone gets to that point, but the highest level, if your other needs are met, he says, you'll get to this point where where you're motivated to get this level of self-transcendence, which is finding meaning beyond yourself. We call that God, but in something higher, right? If this world is all that there is, that really stinks, right? But finding meaning beyond yourself, finding meaning in something greater, religion, God, whatever people call it, infinity, right? So this is our hierarchy of needs, and we want to make sure that our lower needs are met before our higher needs are met. Okay, we're not going to do this question right now. Moving on. Okay, a specific need, hunger, right? We are all very familiar with that need. Okay, apparently there's this idea of a set point. A set point is basically the point that your body kind of fixes for itself as like, this is my ideal weight, this is my ideal caloric intake of food, and your body's going to try to kind of get to that point. Now, when it goes below that set point, you're going to be hungry. Above that set point, you'll be fine. And it basically, it kind of plays into this role of like homeostasis, where like your body decides, this is what I need, this is my set point, and when it goes below that, you'll be hungry. A lot of people disagree with that whole idea. Also, your set point can change out throughout your life. Just understand what a set point means. There are some flaws in that. You could read more about it in the textbook. Your basal metabolic rate is the amount of energy that your body expends when it is at a resting state. So what does the amount of food, the amount of energy that your body needs at resting state is your basal metabolic rate. That will also play a big role in that. In like what's going to cause you to be hungry. Hormones and the brain, right? So the brain has different areas. You'll learn in the textbook about the lateral hypothalamus, the ventromedial hypothalamus. The lateral hypothalamus makes you feel more hungry. They found that when stimulated, it makes you more hungry. The ventromedial hypothalamus, like depresses hunger, makes you not hungry anymore. So like when that's messed up, people will keep, well, really in that case, it was rats, will keep eating, right? If they don't have that thing that kind of says, stop, you're not hungry anymore. There are different hormones that are secreted that makes you hungry. We're not going to get into all of them right now. Like for instance, insulin will play a role in it. When your body's glucose level drops, right? Insulin processes glucose. All that, when your brain picks up on a low glucose level, it's going to secrete certain hormones. It will send some neurotransmitters around, that'll say time to eat. But we will get more into that in other chapters to the extent that it is relevant for us. Some disorders. Anorexia, many of us are familiar with, and the full name of it is anorexia nervosa. Anorexia is essentially when people starve themselves, even though they are hungry. They don't fulfill that need for different reasons. Most are body image, even when they are below their set point, right? Bulimia nervosa is when they eat a lot, they have this binge, right? They're eating a lot and then they purge, right? So whatever that means, for some it is vomiting, for some it is taking laxatives, for some it is over-exercising. So this can sometimes be hidden a little more because many times they won't lose as much weight as someone who is just anorexic because they have this binging part of it, but then they do have this purge. Binge eating disorder is kind of the binging without the purging, right? People who just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and they take in extreme amounts of calories at once, and they're missing the purge part. Not missing. We don't like the purge part either, but that's the difference between bulimia and binge eating disorder. None of them are good, and you can read about all of them a bit more in the textbook. Okay, sex is another motivating factor, is another drive that we want to fulfill. There are different influences. You can read about it more in the chapter. In the chapter, it has something called the sexual response cycle that the AP doesn't really focus on much anymore. So just glance through it. But the idea is there are sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen that make us, have a higher sexual drive. There are psychological influences, right? If you're exposed to certain things that are stimulating, if you have certain sexual fantasies, cognitive stuff, right? And then culturally, like you'll be in certain families or certain religions or certain cultures that certain things are normal and certain things are expected and certain things will create more of a sexual drive than others. It's just seen as another drive within this chapter. Read through it. Don't focus that much on every single little detail. And again, the sexual response cycle is not 100% essential for this course at this point anymore. You should just be familiar with it just in case, but the AP doesn't focus on it as much. Okay, good luck with the rest of the chapter.